In the split second when Flight 214 struck the seawall, the illusion of routine transformed into a fight for survival. The Boeing 777, a symbol of modern aviation prowess, was suddenly reduced to a charred skeleton against the backdrop of San Francisco Bay. How did highly trained pilots, advanced technology, and favorable flying conditions culminate in catastrophe? As the dust settled, a perplexing puzzle emerged, a near-perfect safety record marred by a mere miscalculation. This is the haunting tale of human error, and what should have been a textbook landing gone tragically awry. July 6, 2013 began like any other day at San Francisco International Airport, bustling with the anticipation of arrivals and departures. The weather was favorable, with clear skies and a gentle breeze easing the landing of incoming flights. Among these was Asiana Airlines Flight 214, a long-haul flight from Seoul, South Korea, completing the final leg of its voyage on a Boeing 777. As the aircraft approached the airport's runway, it carried more than 300 souls, each unaware that their tranquil journey was about to diverge into a dramatic and unforeseen conclusion. The Boeing 777, introduced into service 2 decades earlier, was regarded as a pillar of reliability and safety within the industry. Its technology was state-of-the-art, with myriad automated systems designed to relieve pilots of workload and increase safety margins. As the aircraft made its descent towards San Francisco, anticipation of reuniting with loved ones or perhaps the adventure of a new destination was likely occupying the thoughts of its passengers. However, beneath the veneer of a routine landing lay a critical sequence of events that would unravel in mere moments. Upon its final approach, Flight 214 descended lower and slower than it should have, an anomaly only the trained eye could perceive amidst the hustle of a typical day at the airport. The runways that stretched along the azure waters of San Francisco Bay were just ahead. Unfortunately, the crucial data needed to prevent an impending disaster, airspeed and altitude, were not appropriately monitored or corrected by the flight crew. In the cockpit, a convergence of errors unfolded, exacerbated by an over-reliance on the aircraft's automatic systems, coupled with a striking lapse in communication. As the aircraft closed in on the runway, it became increasingly apparent it was too low. Passengers may have felt the peculiar angle of ascent or heard the unmistakable alarms that would have sounded in the cockpit. It was then that the Boeing 777 failed to clear the seawall, a barrier silently looming as the ultimate test of precision landing in this particular scenario. The belly of the aircraft struck the wall, causing it to spin out of control and burst into flames as it skidded along the tarmac. Within seconds, the serene flight had deteriorated into chaos. Inside the cabin, luggage became projectiles, overhead compartments dislodged, and panic spread among passengers trapped in their seats. Quick thinking and a well-rehearsed emergency response were critical. The crew, despite the catastrophic turn of events, began coordinating an evacuation that would ultimately save most of the lives on board. By an interplay of design resilience and dedicated emergency procedure adherence, 304 individuals managed to escape from the smoking wreckage onto the open field of the runway. While 3 lives were tragically lost, the survival of the majority underscored the robustness of aviation safety design and emergency protocols. Still, there was no masking the severity of the crash, a jarring reminder that even a momentary lapse could transcend the bounds of advanced technology and training. The aftermath of the incident initiated a detailed investigation, driven to uncover the precise sequence of decisions and errors that culminated in this harrowing event. Next, the focus would turn towards the insights garnered from the investigation, specifically shining a light on the role the flight crew's missteps played in the accident. Asiana Airlines. Flight 214's attempt to land at San Francisco International Airport morphed into a sequence of rapidly escalating troubles. From the cockpit's confines, where seasoned pilots wrestled with an unforeseen predicament, to the unwitting passengers ensconced in their seats, the peril of the situation would soon become inescapable. The aircraft, flying ominously low and slow, finally encountered the unforgiving obstacle it failed to overcome: a seawall placed strategically as a protective barrier at the water's edge of the runway. Breaking through the cool morning air, the Boeing 777's underside made initial contact with the seawall, a moment so swift and calamitous that it irrevocably altered the course of events. The impact was immediate and catastrophic, leading the aircraft to erupt into a sequence of destructive movements beyond the pilot's control. With its rear portion sheared off on impact, the fuselage began to pitch violently before the rest of the aircraft scattered across the runway, a trail of debris marking its chaotic path. The sensation of striking solid ground reverberated through the fuselage, jarring the hundreds of passengers inside more abruptly than any turbulence had before. As the plane skidded, the roar of metal scraping against concrete drowned the air, intermingling with the cacophony of alarms within the cockpit, meant to alert the crew to the emergency. The fire-resistant materials embedded within the initial design of the aircraft undoubtedly played a crucial role, suppressing what could have been an immediate and engulfing inferno. Nevertheless, the acrid smoke began to permeate the cabin. Inside, the scenario was stark, a combination of emergency lights, dislodged compartments, and terrified cries. The prime imperative shifted from passive passenger to survivor. Crews responsible for safety actioned their drills, guiding dazed passengers through tumultuous cabins, pressing them towards exits, and the inflatable slides designed for swift evacuation. Amidst wreckage and scattered belongings piling onto the runway, those who escaped did so with a profound mix of disbelief and relief. In sharp contrast to its original purpose, the seawall now served as an unintentional catalyst for the eventual halt of the aircraft, preventing it from veering into more densely populated airport zones. Ironically, what had been designed to protect proved instead to be the initiating factor in the crash, blending elements of inevitability with survival. That such an event led to the survival of 304 of 307 passengers stands as a testament to both the resilience built into the aircraft's design and the effective emergency response executed in the face of chaos. Determined investigations would follow, each examining the gathering of physical evidence strewn across the airstrip. The scenes of the accident posed fundamental questions demanding answers, questions that would probe deeply into a pilot crew's reliance on technology, choices made in the cockpit, and the lapse in airspeed awareness that led to this fate. The implications of these revelations were profound, a prelude to understanding how, in aviation, the smallest misjudgment could spiral devastatingly out of control. As analysis advanced, it shifted focus to the survival narrative, an epitome of both miraculous escape and modern safety standards. Next, attention naturally pivots to how the majority emerged relatively unscathed from such peril, highlighting the aviation safety measures born out of necessity. The crash of Asiana Airlines Flight 214 at San Francisco International Airport was a potent reminder of the chaos and unpredictability that can unfold in seconds. Yet, amidst the wreckage and ensuing mayhem, an extraordinary narrative of survival emerged. The survival of 304 out of 307 passengers was not merely a stroke of fortune. It was a testament to the robust safety protocols and engineering standards embedded within modern aviation. As the aircraft came to rest, torn and dismantled across the runway, the initial chaos inside the cabin would have been overwhelming. In any crash landing scenario, the seconds immediately following impact are critical. The flight attendants' rigorous training took over, demonstrating their pivotal role in orchestrating an efficient evacuation under severe pressure. Their preparation for such incidents, ingrained through countless drills, facilitated the swift deployment of emergency slides, a lifeline for those on board. The design of the Boeing 777 played a crucial role in this success. The cabin structure remained sufficiently intact to protect the occupants from the worst of the shock, a reflection of stringent airframe integrity standards. Additionally, the resilience of flame-retardant materials within the cabin interior and furniture mitigated the spread of fire, buying precious time for the evacuation. Ingeniously, technology that had been invisible during the calm scenes of pre-crash now shifted to the foreground as a guardian against further disaster. Amid the mayhem, several stories of heroism unfolded, passengers helping one another to the exits, sharing a bond formed through shared adversity. Their collective actions, whether guided by training or instinct, ensured that the rate of evacuation was both rapid and orderly. Outside the aircraft, emergency teams swiftly organized on the tarmac, ready with firefighting equipment and medical support, their actions fine-tuned by protocols designed to handle just such an emergency. While all these factors aligned to create conditions favoring survival, the statistical reality of 99% escaping alive underscored aviation's dedication to safeguarding lives. For the families and friends who awaited news, the terror of the unknown hung suspended in time until confirmed reports translated uncertainty into relief, or, for a regretful few, sorrow. Of the 3 who perished, 2 were thrown from the aircraft, a poignant reminder that despite advanced safety measures, no system is entirely infallible. Each had his or her life story abruptly concluded within the tragic fabric of the flight's journey. In reflecting upon this disaster, the industry introspected not merely on survival rates, but also on the mechanics that led to the situation. How could a modern aircraft, piloted by experienced crew, falter at an essential maneuver? The approach? The answer lay within a detailed investigation that peeled back layers of cockpit decision-making, revealing the crew's failure to maintain proper airspeed during this critical phase. This inquiry would be the next vital stage, unearthing insights fundamental to preventing future occurrences such as this. As the investigation unfolded, it hoped to balance accountability with progressive learning, an epitome of aviation safety's relentless pursuit of excellence. In the aftermath of the Asiana Airlines Flight 214 crash, the pivotal question that arose was how such a well-equipped aircraft, operated by experienced pilots, could succumb to such a critical failure at the cusp of a landing. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, quickly moved to piece together the jigsaw of events that led to the accident. The focus of this intensive inquiry zeroed in on the pilot's actions during the final stages of the flight, a critical phase when precision and vigilance are paramount. Through meticulous examination of the cockpit voice recorder and flight data, the NTSB uncovered a salient root cause. The flight crew had not maintained the correct airspeed on approach. This lapse was not an isolated error, but a culmination of events that pointed to deeper, systemic issues within the cockpit dynamics. The Boeing 777, in its descent toward San Francisco's runway, had been under the command of seasoned aviators, used to the aircraft's suite of automated assistance tools. And yet, as the approach progressed, it became clear that the critical parameter of airspeed was left unchecked, allowing the aircraft to dip below the threshold needed for a safe landing. The investigation drew attention to a critical misstep, a mismanagement of the autopilot and auto-throttle settings, designed to assist pilots by maintaining appropriate speed and altitudinal checks. Misinterpretations on the pilot's part regarding these systems led to an unsettling consequence: the realization too late that the aircraft was perilously underspeed. This technological interdependence, meant as a boon for aviation safety, instead contributed to the lapse in human vigilance. Examining the layers leading up to this oversight, the NTSB identified contributing factors. There appeared to be confusion in the cockpit about the status and functionality of the aircraft's automated systems. Such misunderstandings revealed a lack of full engagement by the pilots, who relied heavily on these digital aids rather than manual oversight, resulting in a disconnect often referred to as automation complacency, a modern-day affliction in aviation marked by overtrust in technology. Pilot testimonies and flight simulations provided further insights, indicating that the crew struggled with situational awareness. Vital cues, such as declining airspeed and altitude changes, were overlooked, and their responses delayed. This starkly illustrated the limitations that can accompany a dependency on technology, highlighting the critical need for pilots to maintain a situational overview at all times, a skill sometimes dulled by over-reliance on autopilot systems. The investigation's revelations sent ripples through the aviation industry, raising alarms about training modules and system design philosophies. There was an immediate call to bolster pilot training to reinforce manual flying skills and emphasize the importance of maintaining situational awareness even in highly automated cockpits. These findings pointed to the pressing necessity for pilots to embody not just operators of automated systems, but intuitive decision-makers, able to seamlessly marry technological reliance with human experience and judgment. As the findings were published, they laid bare a fundamental tension between human and machine, a duality that must continuously be recalibrated to ensure safety. Yet, the story did not end here. Emerging from this analysis, a larger narrative began to take shape, one about deeper systemic challenges that exacerbate human error, including cultural and training differences among international flight crews. This probing into the multi-layered factors leading to the crash soon shed light on the broader, industry-wide implications necessary for future safeguarding of passenger lives. The crash of Asiana Airlines Flight 214 served as a harrowing reminder of the delicate balance between human skill and technological reliance in modern aviation. As investigators delved deeper into the sequence of events that unraveled that fateful day, a troubling pattern emerged, one that highlighted an uncomfortable over-reliance on automated systems within the cockpit and a consequential depletion of situational awareness among the pilots. This revelation underscored an unsettling paradox: that technology designed to enhance safety may inadvertently introduce vulnerabilities when not managed with the required vigilance. During the analysis, it became evident that state-of-the-art systems designed to aid the flight crew had, in fact, lulled them into a false sense of security. The Boeing 777, equipped with sophisticated autopilot and auto-throttle capabilities, was meant to ease the pilot's workload by maintaining optimal flight conditions. Yet, on this flight, the crew's misinterpretation and overconfidence in these systems led to critical lapses in manual intervention. This dependence inadvertently dulled the crew's hands-on piloting skills, causing vital flight metrics like airspeed and altitude to fall below safe thresholds without immediate detection or correction. The cockpit voice recorder captured the sounds of autopilot and auto-throttle engage alerts, a cacophony designed to guide, yet in this instance, it was ignored or misjudged. The pilots, engrossed in managing automated inputs, missed the diminishing airspeed warnings that indicated their descent was too steep and too slow. The core function of a pilot, to be the ultimate commander and decision-maker, was compromised under the veil of technological facilitation. This reliance led seasoned aviators to a critical juncture where manual flying proficiency was eclipsed by their trust in the aircraft's automated systems, diminishing the critical human element that aviation safety heavily relies upon. The revelation of this lapse activated deep discussions within the aviation community regarding training regimens and the psychological ergonomics of cockpit operations. Modern training, designed to familiarize pilots with advanced systems, inadvertently emphasized automation over manual mastery. Furthermore, as aircraft become increasingly advanced, the industry faced a pressing dilemma: how to maintain the primacy of human oversight and intuition in an environment that projects automation as the hallmark of safety. Addressing these challenges, aviation experts called for a revitalized approach to pilot training, one that re-emphasizes fundamental flight skills, including manual controls and situational awareness. This necessary paradigm shift is aimed at ensuring that all flight personnel, whether novice or veteran, possess the agility and acumen to switch seamlessly between automated and manual modes when conditions demand. The insights gleaned from Flight 214's ordeal presented an opportunity for the industry to recalibrate its strategies, reinforcing the notion that automation should serve as an adjunct, not a substitute, to astute airmanship. As aviation strived to learn from this incident, it encountered deeper systemic issues rooted in human factors like fatigue, training inadequacies, and a cultural environment that may hinder effective cockpit communication. These underlying components became key focal points for further investigation, helping illuminate a broader understanding of how human and technical factors coalesce to impact flight safety. As the investigation into the Asiana Airlines Flight 214 crash unfolded, it became increasingly evident that the tragedy was not solely the result of technological reliance or even a singular oversight. Rather, it highlighted a confluence of human factors that played a significant role in the breakdown of cockpit operations. the ripples of which continue to impact aviation corridors worldwide. Among these factors, three emerged as pivotal contributors to the disaster: fatigue, inadequacies in training, and cultural barriers that impaired effective communication among the flight crew. Fatigue, a perennial challenge for the aviation industry, was identified as a critical element that compromised the performance and alertness of the pilots aboard Flight 214. Despite regulations designed to mitigate such risks, the demands of long-haul flights and the disruption of circadian rhythms can blur the line between wakefulness and exhaustion. The investigation revealed that the pilots had operated under conditions susceptible to fatigue, which likely dulled their vigilance and responsiveness during the critical moments of the approach to San Francisco. This, coupled with the complex task of managing an array of cockpit technologies, set the stage for lapses in judgment and a diminished capacity to process situational cues effectively. Inadequate training also surfaced as a poignant concern, spotlighting discrepancies between what is taught and what pilots encounter in live scenarios. Although the flight crew were accomplished and experienced, there were gaps in their training, particularly in managing manual flying skills under automated flight modes. The incident underscored the need for training programs that strike a balance between automation and manual navigation, enabling pilots to maintain a sharp acumen for both. This deficiency in training was not an isolated issue, but rather indicative of an industry-wide gap, prompting calls for reform in flight simulation and pilot preparedness programs. Perhaps most insidiously, the investigation highlighted cultural barriers within the highly international cockpit environment, which posed significant barriers to effective communication. Asiana Airlines, like many carriers, boasted a diverse crew, bridging multiple languages and cultural backgrounds. While diversity is a strength, it can also introduce variances in communication styles and hierarchical structures that affect decision-making and assertiveness. In the cockpit, where clarity and consensus are paramount, cultural deference can lead to hesitations or reluctance in challenging senior pilots, thus delaying critical actions. The Flight 214 investigation shed light on such dynamics, urging the aviation industry to prioritize cultural competence and communication training that cultivates an environment where crew members are empowered to speak up and contribute to collective safety. This intricate interplay of fatigue, training inadequacies, and cultural communication barriers underscored a broader necessity for the aviation sector to rethink its strategies for human factor management. These lessons from Flight 214 are not uniquely pertinent to Asiana Airlines, but resonate across global airlines, each of whom faces similar challenges in balancing technological advancements with essential human skills. The improvements catalyzed by this tragic event will rely upon a concerted industry effort to recalibrate protocols and expectations, ultimately heightening the resilience of flights worldwide. As these critical components in cockpit harmony were brought to light, the broader aviation community grappled with their implications, seeking solutions to bridge these gaps. This next phase of reflection and reform looked deep into systemic issues of pilot training and technological dependence, an important step to ensure such a tragedy never repeats. The Asiana Airlines Flight 214 crash not only exposed individual errors, but also peeled back the layers of systemic frailties embedded within the aviation industry, a domain traditionally seen as the zenith of safety standards. What emerged was an unsettling realization that these systemic issues were not confined to a single airline, but were indicative of larger training deficiencies and an overwhelming reliance on technology that spanned across international aviation practices. The crash acted as a catalyst for global introspection, prompting industry regulators, airlines, and training institutions to reevaluate their approaches to pilot training, safety protocols, and the integration of technology. Central to this introspection was the burgeoning reliance on automated systems within the cockpit. While automation has undeniably augmented safety by reducing human errors associated with routine tasks, it has also inadvertently sidelined fundamental flying skills. The trend towards automation had been embraced with the assumption of infallibility, which Flight 214 shattered dramatically. The investigation findings pressed the industry to address a critical question. Was the training provided to pilots adequate in preparing them to seamlessly transition between technological assistance and manual control when necessary? Training programs became a focal point of reform. The findings pointed not only to content deficiencies, but also to a misalignment between simulated scenarios and real-world exigencies. Many pilots were adept not because of their manual flying acuity, but due to their proficiency with the aircraft's automated systems. A dangerous paradigm, if not managed with due diligence. This prompted calls for curricula that balanced technical skills with an emphasis on core airmanship, ensuring pilots could confidently disengage autopilot and handle the aircraft effectively under manual control. Additionally, there was a push for simulation exercises that better replicated the nuanced challenges of emergency scenarios, thereby preparing pilots for unpredictability. Beyond training, the crash forced an industry-wide reassessment of cockpit culture and communication. It drew attention to the diverse environments in which pilots operate, often alongside crew from different cultural backgrounds. The revelations underscored the importance of nurturing surroundings, where hierarchical barriers do not impede necessary interventions, bringing forward training programs that teach assertive communication and leadership skills alongside technical acumen. Regulating bodies like the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, and the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, began pushing for more rigorous standards that synchronized these elements. The overarching goal was to ensure that pilots, regardless of geographical or organizational origin, possess the agility to make critical decisions, especially in automated cockpits, where human input can become secondary. The tragedy of Flight 214 thus became a pivot for legislative and procedural advancements in aviation safety. It sparked reforms aimed at reshaping the industry's perception and handling of the human-technology interface, advocating for a future where technological advancement enhances rather than hinders human oversight. The long journey of adaptation and learning from this crash sought to ingrain the lessons learned into the collective operational fabric, aiming for a future where the skies remain safer for all passengers. As the aviation industry grapples with these systemic reforms, attention now turns to how these shifts will be implemented across global networks, fostering a cross-cultural synergy that prioritizes both cutting-edge technology and timeless piloting expertise. This next step involves harmonizing international protocols, striving towards a universally comprehensive approach to safety and prevention that transcends regional boundaries.